Let's talk about your grocery bill. Have you ever stopped to think about how a single chemical compound, one you've likely never thought about, can directly jack up the price of everything you buy? Well, today we're diving into exactly that, the crucial economic link between a commodity called urea, the fertilizer it goes into, and what you end up paying for food. So here's the big question we're tackling today. How are global food prices going to be affected by the urea and fertilizer shortages that have been triggered by the war in Ukraine? From a business and economic perspective, this isn't just about farming. No, this goes way deeper, touching everything from the stability of our global supply chains to how hard a hit our own household budgets are going to take. All right, let's not beat around the bush. We're going to get straight to the bottom line. The one piece of data that every single person, from a CEO to a consumer, really needs to grasp right now. 35%. That's the number. That was the spike in the price for urea. And the timing? Oh man, it could not have been worse. It hit right smack in the middle of the critical spring planting season. A price shock of that size at that exact moment of peak demand, well, that creates a massive and immediate economic ripple effect. And what that means is pretty straightforward. A 35% jump in a fundamental ingredient for agriculture means food inflation isn't a maybe. It's a guarantee. There's just no way around it. Those higher costs that farmers are paying, they will absolutely get passed down the line, creating this huge cost push pressure that's going to be felt all over the world. So, to really get why this price shock is such a big deal, we need to talk about the key ingredient at the heart of all this: urea. So, what is urea anyway? Well, in simple terms, it's a compound that's packed with nitrogen, and it's mostly made from natural gas. It is by far the most common and, you could argue, the most vital component in fertilizers all across the globe. You can really think of it as the high-octane fuel for modern agriculture. And what it does is what makes it so critical. See, urea provides that essential nitrogen that plants desperately need to grow. That makes it absolutely indispensable for getting high crop yields for things like wheat and corn, the very bedrock of our global food system. Without enough urea-based fertilizer, crop yields drop, and that foundation of global food security, it starts to look a little shaky. So how did we get here? I mean, this didn't just happen out of the blue. Let's take a look at the specific event that lit the fuse on this whole crisis. This timeline really shows you the anatomy of the shock. Before the conflict, things were pretty stable in the fertilizer markets. But the moment the war began, key supply chains, especially from major producers like Russia, a top exporter of this stuff, got severely disrupted. And this disruption collided head-on with the Northern Hemisphere's spring planting season, which is the absolute peak for demand. It's a classic textbook economic nightmare. You get a choked supply hitting peak demand, and the result is a massive, massive price shock. And this brings us to the part of the story that matters most to all of us: how this chaos in the supply chain makes its way from a farm field, potentially thousands of miles away, right onto your dinner table. You can think of this ripple effect like dominoes falling. It happens in 4 really clear steps. First, the conflict disrupts the supply. Second, that directly causes fertilizer prices to spike for farmers everywhere. Third, those farmers, who already run on tight margins, are now facing way higher costs just to plant and grow their crops. And the final step? That's when those costs get passed along and we're the ones who see higher prices at the grocery store. So what's the ultimate impact of this 4-step chain reaction? Well, it's a direct punch to the gut for household finances all around the world. At the end of the day, you can't escape this conclusion. This isn't some abstract economic theory we're talking about. It is a direct, tangible hit to household budgets, everywhere. Every family, it doesn't matter where you live, is going to feel the squeeze from this one commodity shock. This chart here really helps you visualize that squeeze. Think about a typical household budget. When that food slice starts to expand, not because you're buying more food, but just because everything costs more, it puts intense pressure on all the other categories. That means less money for housing, for gas, for savings. It's a simple picture, but it represents a really tough reality for millions of families. And all of this brings us to one final, really critical question. This crisis, kicked off by a single commodity and a single conflict, it forces us to ask: just how resilient are our global food supply chains really? It shines a massive spotlight on a vulnerability that goes way beyond any single event. And it's a question that, frankly, we're all going to have to deal with for a long time to come.